I assume everybody's all right with that. If not, you can leave now. And I think, can you stop sharing your screen, Madeline, please?
I'm trying to. I don't know how to do that.
There you go.
Okay.
Perfect.
Oh.
All right.
Thanks.
So, Emily, do you want to just do a bulk, like let people in and we'll get rolling here? Yay. Now I see everyone. I see names. I see faces. Cool. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here. My name's Chris Cooley. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO of Ozworks Group, which is an online community for OZ stakeholders, along with my business partners, Jimmy Atkinson of the Opportunity Zones podcast and Ashley Tyson of OZ Pros. I want to welcome everybody today. I know that there are some familiar faces. There are people here who are members already of the community. And so I'm so grateful, and it makes me smile to see people that I know and that I've talked to and that I've become friends with. And that's one of the reasons why we've all assembled today, is to talk a little bit, and we'll talk more at the end of this session, this info session today, about an event that we're having at the end of July, which is going to be our third event in Puerto Rico. And we've assembled 4 organizers and groups to put together the biggest, most fun, exciting version that we've had so far. So we've kind of taken on the best of all the worlds. Just a couple of sort of housekeeping items. This is a big, happy family, right? So we've got a bunch of Hollywood squares. If you could just keep your mute on and ask any questions that you have in the chat. And the presenters and speakers today will do their best to get to your answers inside of the chat, because we have a pretty full schedule for the next hour. The goal here today is to introduce an investor group and people in general who are interested not just in OZs, but investing in Puerto Rico, about the general overview of the island. And we wanted to do that through, business, through real estate introduction, by talking about municipalities, by talking about tax incentives, really to just give the full picture. And we have some friends here that are also going to be speaking at our event in July. And so I've invited them to come share their stories in little snippets to kind of give you an overview of how and why investing in Puerto Rico is on the forefront of a lot of people's minds, right? And so we at Ozworks Group take an OZ approach to the investing. In conversation in general. That doesn't mean that that's the only thing we ever talk about, right? And so it's really important to paint with a broad brush at the start, and that's what part of this dialogue is. So before I get into the first speaker here, Deb, do you want to say anything about your participation in the event? I mean, we've synced up to do this thing together now. It was kind of loosely tied. You came to our first event. Catherine Maria got us together on a bus tour, and we did a thing with Invest Puerto Rico. So I thank you. And if you wanted to say a few words, it's just awesome that you reached out to say, let's do this together.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Welcome, everybody. Chris and I met last year. In fact, I think it was almost a year ago, July. My good friend of mine, Catherine Morea, moved to Puerto Rico, started Rio Rico, who is another partner of ours on this event. And I went to Puerto Rico because I wanted to check out what she was doing, and she was telling me about these remarkable deals. I've been a long-time real estate investor, and I'm always looking for great opportunities. And I just said, hey, to some of my community, come on with me. And Chris did the same thing. And what do you know? We ended up being there and meeting each other and having an amazing time. I have since invested in Puerto Rico with one of the speakers you'll hear from today, Catherine and Robbie Krager. And it's been a remarkable opportunity. And it's such an incredible place. Not only is it full of opportunities for investing and great ways to have your money go out there and make money, but it is also an incredible environment of entrepreneurs. The energy there is very much a can-do energy. I love that. And for anybody who's on this call who has ever been around a bunch of entrepreneurs, you know that it can be just contagious in the things that you can do together. So really happy to be partnering with Chris and Catherine and Ashley and all the people that are on this call to make this event happen, to make it really informative so that you have actual contacts and context in which you could actually go in and invest, and also to make it really fun because we're a bunch of fun people to hang around with.
It is. It's like a family reunion. I say when we first went down and I got to meet Robbie, and I actually had never met Ashley and Jimmy in person, and we had a business together, right? Like we launched a business, and that was part of the model that was designed for Osworks Group, is to be connected and share. And Deb, I really appreciate you for coming together, being together. And I think I was actually talking with Ashley about this the other day, and we said, Puerto Rico is almost like this freshman year of college for entrepreneurs. Like everybody's there, they're trying to meet new people. It's a new place, it's exciting. And so I look at Robbie as like the sophomore or like the RA in the student dorm, because he's been there for a while. And so Robbie, I'd love to introduce you now, and we're gonna be seeing at least one of your properties, and I'd love to hear from you, since you are one of the people who I obviously look up to and have become friends with, that are really doing good things and doing projects on the island. So can you just introduce yourself, talk about why you're investing in Puerto Rico real estate? And I'd also like to talk a little bit about businesses, because you introduced that you were curious and asked me last week, like what's the deal with that? Like, especially around opportunity zones. So yeah, let's jam a little bit. We'll kind of dig into it, and over the course of the hour, we want to just give everyone a really clear view of how and why you can and may want to invest in Puerto Rico, and then talk a little bit about how you can, like Deb said, get into it at this event. That's what it's designed for, is so that you can participate, be present, and see some properties like Robbie's and Deb's and a few others. So yeah, Robbie, take it away. Tell us why you're in Puerto Rico, why real estate, and why are you curious about businesses now around this?
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, Chris. Yeah, so my name's Robert Krager, and my company is PR Consultants. We've been in Puerto Rico for 4.5 years now. I have done nothing in my career other than real estate investing. So I came to Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria, to find a place where our money would go further and the deals would be more abundant, plentiful, and profitable. We found all of that, and at this point we are heavily invested into the hospitality industry. We're partners with many people on this call, so I just scrolled through and I see a lot of people that we've done things with, and I would say I'm quite literally, or at least possibly, the largest cheerleader of Puerto Rico in existence today. I'm a pretty big guy, so when we meet, you'll see what I'm saying. But I am here to promote and partner with people. We've been a part of the other 2 bus tours, and have had a great time getting to know people through Osworks and through REN. We've partnered with people from REN, partnered with Deb. We've done things with Ashley and Chris, and I mean, that's our DNA, is to partnership. One of the things I love about Puerto Rico is this willingness to come together and partner. So I like what you said about it being the first semester of college, and we're getting to know each other, but there's a ton of like-minded people who come to this island in a very short period of time. And there's an abundance here of work to be done and ways to profit, and the tax credits that are offered here, combined with what would otherwise already be, I call them deal of a lifetime opportunities. It just makes things that much better. It's amazing. So I've found my happy spot here in Puerto Rico. I've always been a high volume guy. We've bought and sold thousands of properties in the last 25 years, and we haven't slowed down coming to Puerto Rico. Maybe we've done less deals, but we're doing a much higher portion of the real estate market at this point. So I would love to get to know everybody, and listen, this trip that they're going to talk about coming and going on the bus, and sitting with Ashley Tyson and Chris Cooley and meeting Deb Rosso. Guys, this is life changing. I just can't encourage enough. Please come see what we're doing in Puerto Rico. You won't be disappointed. And I've been doing this for 4 years, and the biggest takeaway I've had over that period of time is that anyone who comes and looks at what's going on in Puerto Rico, I've never one time had someone leave saying, well, that wasn't worth my trip, or that wasn't worth the time. It's always worth it. It's absolutely amazing. I put out a YouTube, I've got a YouTube channel out there, PR Consultants, if you guys want to see what we're doing. But we cheerlead Puerto Rico, and I'm often showcasing properties for my friends, from things that we're doing. And so check us out, PR Consultants, and you can learn more about us and what we do. We've got a video out there this morning about this upcoming event, and I truly believe it's going to be life-changing for people. So I'm glad to be a part of it. The last thing you asked me to talk about is this opportunity zone, investing in opportunity zones, but specifically into businesses. And so for me, I think I had like this penny drop aha moment a week ago, where it was like, I'm a real estate guy, and we like to value add, invest, and invest in real estate, tie it to businesses, and all of that is great. But where I think Puerto Rico might have an advantage over the world right now is investing in businesses that are starting in an opportunity zone. In fact, 98% of the island is an opportunity zone, so it makes it easy to comply. And so then you can tie these businesses that are being started in these zones with things like the Young Entrepreneurs Act and things like the Act 20 Export Services Act. And so I know that there's going to be a ton of businesses started right now over the next few years. And anyone who's going to become an entrepreneur and start something new or buy a business really ought to look into how they can set it up properly ahead of time using opportunity zones. And Chris, that's what I hope that we can really dive into, because I think it was this kind of aha moment that I had, that it's like, yeah, we can 10x, we can 20x on real estate, but what if we could 1000x on somebody's business?
One of the things that I said, Robbie, is like, properties, and there's been a big, the numbers show that through opportunity zone investing, real estate is the pinnacle, right? I mean, it's almost a 16-to-1 ratio of the volunteer reporting that's been done of, it's like $16 billion around there that's been invested in real estate, and and this is the last time I saw the numbers, but close to $1 billion in operating businesses. And one of that is this challenge, because, there's the walls and floors and property lines, like in a business, they don't exist, right? So you have to figure out a working model that's very different. And also some of the challenges, right, are compliance, because, when you're located in a physical space, like we're set up, Osworks Group, as a qualified opportunity zone business. We are a remote company, right? We are based out of OZs. We comply, right? At the same time, like there are some real creative challenges to face, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't do it, right? It was one of those things that I said in the beginning: if we're going to practice what we preach, we need to practice what we preach, So I want to get it. We can certainly get into that, and that's going to be part of our event, right? Is talking specifically about OZs, but again, the broader brush here is like, why Puerto Rico in general, right? And OZs become a fraction and a component of it. But you had the aha moment that I had about 2 years ago, which was, I really need to do this with businesses. My background comes from the co-working industry, right? So we're putting together and incubating companies. And it's like, if these businesses can 1000x, right? Which is not limited, again, by the physical aspect of a property. I'm not saying a real estate deal is a bad deal, but that's one thing we also say is, OZ doesn't make a bad deal a good one. So there's a lot of learning in here to uncover, but this is a great example, and I wanted to share your aha moment with others who are maybe in and around real estate, that are thinking in terms of real estate, to also think about diversifying and how you may be able to invest in businesses too, right? So hopefully that's helpful a little bit.
Chris, can I add to that really quickly?
Of course, yeah.
And this is what I was talking about when we talked about the environment of entrepreneurs, and that is the abundance mindset there, right? There's a lot of people in Puerto Rico who aren't thinking about 10xing. They're thinking about 100xing, they're thinking about bringing it out. And I think this is one of the things that is so, the energy that's so contagious there. And I just love that you guys started off with that.
Yeah, it is contagious. And Deb, on the last bus tour, we sat next to each other and you were like, tell me about this OZ operating business thing, right? So like that's just part of the value and Robbie's talking about. I mean, how it is life changing. I mean, I'm coming down a week before our event and I'm starting to look at where I can plug my life into this place because for me, it's great to see the properties and the area and the environment, but to me it's all about connecting with people, and it's one thing to say like we're going to invest in a place. It's another thing to say we're going to invest in people, and that's part of the spirit of the OZ incentive. And I also find that alignment is what draws us all. When I'm in a room with all of you and in person, it's like that energy is a like-mindedness. And I know Robbie, you share that as well, so thank you for being the light that you are, all of you. I'm going to move over. Joel from the National Puerto Rican Chamber of Commerce. Speaking of businesses and people, we've had some amazing dialogue and conversation about local businesses getting involved in the investment conversation in Puerto Rico. And so, Joel, if you could maybe, we met a few months ago, and we've had just some great back and forth on Zoom. And this is, again, one of the beauties of meeting on Zoom and then getting to know others and then diving in, right? And getting to know each other in person. It's important to know how these investments impact businesses in Puerto Rico and maybe even what some opportunities are for people to invest in businesses in Puerto Rico. Joel, just from your perspective, let's have an open dialogue for a few minutes, man. Can you talk a little bit about what the National Puerto Rican Chamber of Commerce is and does, and then we can get into the importance of this business ecosystem in and around investing on the island?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thanks for having me today. Pleasure to meet all of you. I look forward to getting to know all of you as we go. So, like Chris said, I'm Joel Berrocal with the National Puerto Rican Chamber of Commerce. We're a 501c3 nonprofit based in Washington, D.C. and in San Juan. I'm personally based in Philadelphia, but originally from Lares, Puerto Rico. I'm also joined by two of our San Juan-based ambassadors, DJ Lampet, who's on the call, and Veronica Montalvo, who's on the call as well. So they may be chiming in as we go. But to give you a little bit of background about the organization, we started about 10 years ago, basically kind of like what Robert said, to be cheerleaders for the island and for small business. We look to support small businesses in Puerto Rico and in US-based businesses through advocacy work and through various other initiatives that we've been doing over the past about 10 years or so. We've really ramped up our Puerto Rico efforts and and supporting the small business ecosystem after the events of Hurricane Maria, which what we realized was after Maria, we worked very heavily in disaster relief work, and what we saw was a lot of people, a lot of educated, bilingual people looking for opportunity, kind of got tired of waiting for opportunity, and they started creating it. So we saw an explosion after the hurricane of just amazing businesses in diverse sectors, just creating all sorts of wonderful things that a lot of people outside Puerto Rico just haven't been aware of up until recently. The awareness is really starting to show now. So in that sense, like after that, we just continue to support via again through our advocacy work, through all sorts of other means and strategic partnerships, and some kind of rambling on, but essentially what we're trying to say is that there's so much going on that we kind of want to bring that to the world. So how we help those businesses a lot of those businesses are looking to scale to outside of Puerto Rico, primarily to the United States and to other parts of the world. And we just want to do our best to give them an opportunity and showcase to the world. So that's one of the reasons why we wanted to work with you, Chris, and kind of on this event at the end of July to kind of showcase some of the amazing things being built in Puerto Rico. So we're excited about that. We look forward to getting these businesses and just showcasing everything to the amazing group that's here today. So yeah.
Joel, thank you. You know, I actually got connected to you through DJ, who was on the last bus tour.
Yeah.
So, you know, this is a growing, ever evolving ecosystem. And part of the role that I see us playing is being able to make sure that we can bring all the organizations together to have a voice for not just people who are coming from the mainland to make investments, but also people and businesses who are on the island, right? That can take advantage of some of these. So there's definitely a very real conversation that we need to have about some of the challenges and some conflicting viewpoints, right? About the different incentives that are out there that are attracting certain type of individuals. And I think that investors on this call and who are joining us need to know about this, right? That that some of the incentives that are offered are maybe not necessarily available to people who have been in Puerto Rico for a certain amount of time. And so there are definitely some complexities there. At the same time, Joel, maybe, I don't know if you can speak to this or if you're comfortable with it, or I'm kind of like going off topic slightly, but just in general, like, what are you seeing from Puerto Rican businesses? What do they need? How can investment help support them? And are they open to that? Like, is, you know, maybe just talk a little bit about the current sort of atmosphere and what investors should expect if they're talking to business owners, because we're going to highlight some of them at this live event, right? So
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say exactly what we've been talking about in terms of the conversation and investment. I mean, the number one need is capital. I mean, you know, that's the most important thing. And not, you know, 9 out of 10 of our members is, you know, we put out surveys for our members just to get feedback on what they want to see from us, what they want to see us doing to support them. And the number one response we always get is capital. I think there is, I think our job is to kind of connect that. You know, a lot of the investors who are looking to invest in Puerto Rico just aren't super aware of what's out there, or aren't super aware of what's being built in Puerto Rico. And a lot of the businesses in Puerto Rico just aren't aware of where the means to go about getting different types of capital. I think it kind of goes down, and that's part of a lot of the work we do in terms of educational content and stuff like that, is because a lot of businesses just aren't aware of how to fund their business properly. A lot of people think it's this or this, and aren't aware of a whole other plethora of options that are available to them. So I think part of our job is doing things like this to kind of connect the dots and kind of build that awareness on both sides of what's being built and what's available in terms of funding your business. But to you know, kind of a long-winded answer, but to answer your question, it's capital. It's the most important thing that they're looking for. It's pretty simple and straightforward.
Yeah. DJ, if you can hear me and you're here, is there anything that you want to add? I know that you're really involved in some of the local business ecosystems and island-wide, really. And you're also obviously connected to MPRCC. So do you want to share some wisdom and knowledge and maybe a little bit of background on you and how you got to the island?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah, to support Joel's kind of point, I think, you know, post Maria, granted, I was not here post Maria. I've only been here just under a year, but you can really understand and see the resilience of people on the island, especially when it comes to innovation and, you know, really kind of rolling up their sleeves and starting their own business and launching their own business. And I think the ecosphere here is really, it's vibrant. There's a lot of really, you know, hungry entrepreneurs and startups that are really keen to grow their business, but also, you know, share it with the rest of the world. I think that's also an imperative. And you know, so I think to support that, absolutely, you know, their capital is obviously number one for everybody when it comes to this, but also I think just network is really key. And I think that's the one thing about MPRCC that I've, you know, really been super grateful for is just simply a network in a community. And I think that's really been such a platform to help, you know, those who need investment, the businesses here locally, and even the ones that are, you know, Puerto Rican owned and run in the mainland as well. I mean, there's some really great community members and people doing some great innovative things. So yeah, I you know, again, I just want to kind of echo what Joel said, and we're really excited also to, you know, talk a little bit about our what we're going to do for putting some of the businesses in front of this great group of investors, and as well, we're excited to introduce some really cool and innovative companies that are ready to move forward and scale. So.
Well, and this is like a mini teaser, right? Like I just got your email like a couple days ago about wanting to put together this sort of little pitch day. And that's going to be something that is just all the more reason to come hang out with us in person. So you get to see something like that. And we'll certainly keep that in motion and figure out how we're going to do this this presentation of these amazing featured businesses. And I know, the part of the spirit, and I come back to OZ because it's just the world that I'm in right now, right, is the spirit of this incentive is to pump economic, flow into areas that are traditionally underserved and socioeconomically challenged, I should say. And so, that's a big component of the formula in Puerto Rico and in communities in general, that to come in with capital, like Joel said, one of the biggest needs is also to come in with capital that's built on relationships, and that there's a trust that trust is created and in place, because otherwise it's like, hey, we know what you need and we're going to change everything. And there's certainly a topic to be and a discussion to be had around that. But the more we get to connect with each other and see that we're all human and we're all looking to make good things happen, that's the environment that we've created in our past few events, and that we look to continue to create moving forward. So I appreciate the business side of this coming into the equation. And again, that only happens because DJ came on the bus tour. I sat next to him. He introduced me to Joel. And then I think Sean Hansen, who I think I saw here as well, he connected with DJ. He's got a property on the beach that he's now invested in. He introduced me to somebody else who's doing agriculture that parallels with what DJ is doing and what I would really like to do on the island, in addition to the opportunities on stuff. So it's amazing how much can come out of these types of engagements. So thank you both for being here. And it's exciting to know that we'll have a whole nother layer. Like, we get to see the real estate, we get to see some businesses. Is there like a teaser that you can provide, either Joel or DJ, about like what types of businesses we might be able to see and learn about?
Yeah, it's going to be, right now I have a short list of about 10, and they cover all sectors. So we're talking agriculture, service industry, more on the tech type of startups. So it's going to be a real diverse group. So I think everybody will be pleased with the amazing things that are being built on this island.
Love it. Absolutely love it. So again, creativity. I think Deb said it. It's like the entrepreneurial spirit just starts to spark a lot of movement. I find that it's like, okay, which of these 27 opportunities am I going to pursue? Because there really is so much to be excited about. And I do also want to talk a little bit more technical and overarching, sort of financially, right? And so what do these incentives and taxes look like? And I've invited our friends from Grant Thornton to give. They have a couple of slides. Samira and Madeline, are you there? Can you hear me? I think Madeline's going to flip through some slides. What I absolutely love about Grant Thornton, Maria, who a lot of you know, is there. And she, again, has been a major supporter of Osworks Group from day one. In fact, she's the person, her and Catherine are the ones that introduced me to all of these amazing groups. Maria at Grant Thornton connected me with Invest PR, and they were the initial sponsor that made these events happen from our Osworks Group perspective. And so now we've got Samira and Madeline who are teaming up to share a lot of this investing information about the tax advantages and incentives. So Madeline, can you hear me okay? I see your slides.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Thank you for the introduction. Can you tell where the accountants in the group, like, we're the only ones who prepare slides? One of the presenters.
Everybody gets to be themselves and do their thing. That's what is so beautiful about this.
Yeah, so thank you everyone for joining. Samira and I, Madeline Tubens, will be speaking on the July event. We are both CPAs and attorneys here in Puerto Rico, licensed in Puerto Rico. And even though our names might sound otherwise, we are born and raised in the island. And we are part, and that's an example of the richness of our culture. Right here, you have it. So we are part of the tax consulting practice in Key Bank Grant Thornton. And during this past year, we've been actively involved with Maria. Her practice is growing like OC practice in the tax planning and implementation of OC projects in the island. What we'll be doing is giving you an overview of the tax incentives code that we have. That's an additional benefit that Puerto Rico has to offer to businesses, to certain businesses coming and doing operations here, and that can be combined with OC benefits. Now I'll leave you with Samira, who will give you a little bit more of information on our firm.
Thank you, Madeleine. Thank you, Chris, for having us. We're really happy to get to know you in person and share with you. Now we're going to talk a little bit about Key Bank Grant Thornton and why we can be a right fit for you. We are a local and independent accounting firm that started as Key Bank in 1975. 10 years after, we joined the Grant Thornton network and changed our name to Key Bank Grant Thornton. So this is very beneficial because being part of a network connects us to firms located around the globe in 140 international markets. That means that if you wish to expand your business to other countries, we can connect you with our network of highly qualified and trusted professionals. Another advantage that we have is that we are an international business center since 2008, I'm sorry. So Grant Thornton has around 23 IBCs, and being an IBC allows us to operate as a gateway to global resources and facilitates our clients' entrance into international markets. The most valuable asset that our firm has is our people, and our firm counts with excellent professionals that are licensed attorneys, certified public accountants, such as Madeleine and I, certified internal auditors, and many, many other professionals with highly achieved certifications. We are a one-stop firm. We can provide a wide array of accounting services. Usually clients start in our consulting practice. There we can advise them on how to set up their structure, assess if they are eligible for these incentives, and how to get the most out of them. And afterwards, we can assist them with their business registrations, do their accounting, and all the compliance, audits, et cetera, et cetera. So we can serve you from the initial setup of your business and thereafter cover all your accounting needs. Okay, so now it comes the fun part. What you're seeing here is a table that we prepared to highlight all the industries covered within Act 60, which is generally known as the Incentives Code. So those of you who have heard about the Incentives Code prior to this activity, please leave a comment or put a reaction. Yes, okay, I'm seeing a yes. Great. So did you know that in Puerto Rico, you can not only defer the capital gains you invest in an OC, but also you can structure your qualified opportunity zone business to get a grant under these industries and get taxed at a preferential rate. So this can certainly lower your costs and increase return on investments. So this piece of legislation, Act 60, was enacted on July 1st, 2019, and it consolidates and streamlines all the incentives that were previously granted under separate laws, such as you probably know, Act 20, 22, manufacturing. So all of these incentives were separately in separate laws, and now we have them all over covered in a code. And since you were talking in the beginning about the many industries that we are incentivized in Puerto Rico, we know that in the news, what sounds is the export of goods and services incentives and the individual resident investor, but we have many industries that are incentivized As you can see, tourism, manufacture, agriculture. And here we're going to highlight and focus in tourism and priority projects, which are the most commonly combined with opportunity zones. But really, there's a lot of industries that are incentivized that you can take advantage of. So now I'm going to turn it over to Madeleine so she can highlight some of the benefits of these two industries.
So basically, Act 60, what it tried to do is to standardize the benefits throughout all industries covered during the under the Act 60 legislation. And that's what you'll see on the in general left column side of this slide. We prepare a summary. And the first thing you'll see is the typical commonly known 4% income tax rate or tax-free dividends or profit distributions. There are also certain exemptions available. When you do business in Puerto Rico, you are subject to local taxes that are in the locality where your business operates in, and Act 60 also offers exemptions on those taxes. Some examples are property taxes, what we call municipal license tax. However, not all industries are treated equally, so you have to be very careful. For example, you'll see in the priority projects column that instead of a 4% rate, the applicable reduced rate is of 18.5. And priority projects, those are the projects or the businesses that are under the official OC chapter on the incentive code and are for businesses that are centered in real estate activities. Also, we wanted to highlight for tourism and priority projects, there are tax credit available. For tourism activities, there's a 30 or 40% tax credit based on what it's called eligible investment. Basically, it's calculated on the project cost of the development. And as an investor, you can have a 5 to 25% credit on the investment you make in the priority project. So in July, what we'll do is we will provide you like common examples we've seen in our practice of different businesses that can fit within an OC structure, and also help you navigate through the system and let you know about some common misconceptions and pitfalls that can happen. And we can give you tips to help them avoid them. For example, you will not want to have invest resources in Puerto Rico, expecting that your business will be taxed at a 4%, to then learn that it's gonna be taxed at the 30.75 maximum corporate tax rate because you didn't follow the process correctly, or that you invested and then learned because you missed a formality that those costs incurred were not eligible for tax credit. So we'll give you some tips for that. I know this is, of all the subjects, this is the most boring or technical, but we are going to do our best to keep you engaged. And lastly, but not least importantly, we have to throw this in. We advise you that you please, before setting up any business in Puerto Rico, no matter how much research you have performed, that you consult a local expert that knows how to navigate on the local rules. And at Kivin, we can help you plan your business so it fits within the requirements of Act 60, and also plan with your investments. So now this is the end for us, and we look forward to see you in person on July.
It's so good.
Thank you.
Thank you. You know, I want to highlight, you said like maybe it's the most boring, but this is the part that like is the piece that like saves you and activates the most money, right? So like,
That's right.
okay, pay attention, or at the very least, hire Grant Thornton and these two wonderful people.
No, it's not necessarily hire Grant Thornton. If you hire us, oh, great. But this is very, well, we want to, the message to send is a very, very technical subject. So you have to have work hand in hand with people who know how to navigate the system, because if not, you will have unintended consequences on your structure, and you can end up with disappointment that could have been avoided.
Yes, absolutely. We have inside of Osworks Group a compliance team and volunteers that are experts that commit their time, and I thank them for doing that. And one of the things that comes up every time we speak is that compliance is it's not optional, right? It's required, and so it's just honestly, to me, it's such a relief to have you both and Grant Thornton in the room, because this is critical. And if you want to get involved, you have to be prepared to dive into the weeds a bit, right? And I also want to highlight that the flow of this session today is also an example of how we're going to run the 3 days of the event. Actually, technically it's 4 days, but the main 3 days, the first day is going to be a lot of presentation. And I'm excited to hear some of the examples that you're going to present as well, and just hear some of the stories. The second day is the bus tour all day, so we get to really be together. First day is like presentation, education. Second day is networking, get your feet on the ground, talk to people, see some real tactile things. And then the third day is going to be all about engagement and Q&A. And so this is really unique. And it's something that we've done a little bit of on the past two events, but I so appreciate Samira and Madeline being available to do open Q&A. So there will be panel discussions where the audience, the participants, you all can actually ask them, and we'll get live feedback in real time. So it's really powerful stuff to be able to not just hear it, but then to digest it and then come back and ask more questions about it, right? So so thank you for being willing to participate in that way. And I also I saw Patrick Chagrew's name on here. I don't know if Brett Siglin is here or Paul St. Pierre, but they will also be there. They're from Osworks Group. They're coming down to the island to be on those panels to discuss more opportunity zone strategy, where, you know, at Grant Thornton, you obviously have this working, incredibly deep knowledge of Puerto Rico tax laws, incentives. So thank you both. It's just such a pleasure to get to know you and meet you in person for the first time in a month or so.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Brian Borgery, are you in the house here? I would love to kind of dovetail into investment trends that you all are seeing. So Invest Puerto Rico, well, Grant Thornton connected me with Invest Puerto Rico. Brian is a part of that organization. And Brian, thank you and your group for supporting in the ways that you have to get, I mean, we aren't at this point without you, without everybody here that's spoken, been engaged, and I thanked everyone. But Brian, we've gotten to know each other as well. And, you know, if you want to speak to investing trends that you're seeing, I mean, through Uncommon Entrepreneurs and all the insights that you have from Invest Puerto Rico, I know it's asking a lot to do in like 5 minutes or so, but like, what are you seeing, man? And thank you for being here.
So rapid fire. For those who don't know, I work with Invest Puerto Rico in charge of investment, innovation, entrepreneurship efforts. I also run a very large entrepreneur and investor network of about 3,000 people here on the island as well, kind of come entrepreneurs. So I have a pretty good view of things from multiple standpoints. And then I run the investment platform we built for the island called Impeller. I'll drop a link in a minute. And for what I've been seeing, there's been a shift over the last 9 months in interests, in some of the interests of investors looking at the island. Still reigning number one for most months has been early stage companies, actually. That's been the number one interest. But residential real estate in the last 6 months has creeped up to number 2. And for a month or two is actually the most interesting item to investors coming to the island. Commercial real estate's been kind of in the top 4 or 5 for the last 6 months as well. But renewable energy opportunity zones, I think, is number 3 pretty consistently for interest levels from investors. And then technology companies. Now that's what investors are saying. I am seeing real estate deals happening of all sorts, residential developments, hospitality, manufacturing, because we have a lot of companies moving down from that need warehousing, manufacturing, things like that. So there's a huge opportunity for people who are willing to get things ready now. So they're move-in ready for these companies. There's literally billions of dollars looking to move in from that standpoint, needing industrial real estate, but it's normally not ready to move in on day one, or there's not enough of it, I should say, at any given time. So that's an opportunity for anyone who's willing to take it on. We can fill it if we have people getting going on some of those processes for that. Hospitality is there's still tons of room for growth. As an island, we're very diverse compared to most. Half of our entire GDP and economy is manufacturing, and hospitality tourism is only 7%. So we still have a lot of room to grow and still not overly affect the broader economy and the resiliency and diversity that we have in that regard. Agriculture has also been an area of interest. Even the first deal we funded on the investment platform was a cacao farm and processing plant. We've had interest in vertical farming and aquaponics. And honestly, across the board, I'm seeing stuff happen in the coconut industry, just you name it. I know DJ is working on some stuff as well, but I've seen a lot in the agriculture side. Something to think about on the business front. There's lots of startups and early stage companies, but there's also a lot of companies that are not new in their existence, but that are expanding into Puerto Rico or looking to set up offices in Puerto Rico. And that could be a really unique opportunity to kind of bridge the gap, saying, okay, well, maybe I want to take advantage of opportunity zones, but I don't necessarily want to take the chance on a brand new startup that's 3 months old sort of thing in that investment and hope that it continues for the length of the opportunity zone investment. But there's opportunity for investing in some of these companies that aren't new, maybe new on the block, but not new in the city, so to speak, or in the world. And I think that could be interesting. It's also just interesting on the investment side. So I have just registered in our investment platform around 850 investors that have signed up since August. And that's ranging everywhere from retail investors to BlackRock and everything in between. So I'm seeing a really diverse interest of investors, and many that are looking to co-invest on the island. And that could be funds or just other investment groups. So getting to know other investors that are doing things, I recommend, because some projects maybe you can't fund entirely yourself, or maybe there just should be a diverse group of investors. So that's something I'd look forward to doing for all those who come out here. And there will be some good events and things going on throughout the week as well, probably both officially and unofficially, with the tour that you can plug into. So that's a spat. Anything else you want me to talk about?
That's the only thing we have time for today is a spat, right?
Then come to Puerto Rico and I'll talk your ear off.
Exactly. No, it's amazing, Brian. And you know, we've got Michael Gay from your organization who's going to be presenting on the first day, and you'll also be showing a little bit about Impeller. So yeah, please feel free to put the link to Impeller and anything else or any resources that you'd like in the chat. You know, one of the things that I loved about our last event was how deep the information is that you all have at Invest Puerto Rico, and how easily and directly it was presented by you all when we were there in person. And so the other thing that's amazing, Brian, is like, you're talking about the last 6 months. You're not talking about like a 5-year curve, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a whole other discussion to talk on that. One last thing I'll say is Puerto Rico is on the upswing economically. We're out of bankruptcy, a bunch of things, hurricanes, whatever. Like, we're on an upswing after a decade or more of recession, where most of the world is on a downwards turn, hopefully not spiral, but at least going downwards. So we're uniquely at an inflection point that we're growing when others are shrinking in that regard. So I think it's a unique point in time, just period, in the history of the world for Puerto Rico and the opportunities here. And yeah, there's a lot. So happy to talk to anyone about anything offline.
Thanks for being here, man. And obviously come down and meet Brian in person at any time, but it'll be hyper focused in July. So yeah, man, I really appreciate you, and I appreciate our friendship that we formed and all the conversations we've had on the side as well. So thank you. And Ashley, you are here. I know my guy is hanging out in the background somewhere. Can you hear me?
I'm here. I'm
Yes.
here. So move my Hollywood Square up to talking now, right?
You're in. I think I have it set so it just boom highlights. Dude, so we met for the first time in Puerto Rico a year ago.
That's right.
And I have a funny story
In
about
person.
that. Yes, in person. And I have a funny story about that I'll share later. But we're doing something really unique this time around. I kind of highlighted it a couple minutes ago, right? Where we've got day 1 presentations, we got day 2 bus touring, we got day 3, which is this really different type of format, but it's something that you've been doing since you started OZ Pros, right? It's this engaging strategy type dialogue, and we wanted to mimic that in real life so that the audience, the participants, could see how this works and could get inspired, right? By having a live one Q&A with a panel, like with Grant Thornton, with Patrick, with Paul, the crew from our compliance zone, but also that we do this hot seat thing. And so I'm just stoked. I mean, dude, you're making your own investments in Puerto Rico. Maybe just talk a little bit about what you're doing down there. And I mean, you've done 1,000 strategy calls, set up however many funds. Just give us an overview of who you are, what you do, and we got a couple.
Yeah,
minutes.
absolutely. So I'm an attorney. I like to call myself a reformed attorney. I try to practice law as little as possible, but I keep falling off the wagon, getting sucked back into deals. And anyhow, it's been a great run in the opportunity zone world. I found out about it in 2018 and have been doing literally nothing but opportunity zones ever since, and married up perfectly that, with Puerto Rico being 98% opportunity zone. So I was actually down there for my anniversary, and this was last year. This was my 9th anniversary. And I had a strategy call with Catherine Morea. And so we had grabbed coffee at the Fairmont. And while we're there, she was like, hey, there's a guy that's just as tall as you, and he played professional basketball in Europe just like you did. And I was like, no way. I was like, there's no way there's somebody like that in Puerto Rico. And so she introduced me to Robbie Krager. And then since that time, we've gotten to know Robbie and Dave, and we've put together a great team down there. And Robbie's put together a great team. We raised the funds relative to kind of our own personal capital between Jimmy Atkinson and myself and some other folks. Jimmy's the host of the Opportunity Zones podcast. And we decided that we wanted to make one of our investments into Robbie's deals down there in Puerto Rico. And we've put together a team around Robbie to really make those, hotel investments happen. So we're excited about I think we've got 5 that we're doing right now, with probably another 5 in the pipeline, and are super stoked about what those are going to ultimately be able to do for Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
So also looking forward to, what we do in doing what we do for my day job, right? So that's kind of my investing sideline, right? And helping those guys do that project, and then, helping them be able to kind of bring that project to life and raise money inside of it. That's what we do for other funds inside of OZ Pros. We set them up, but then we also go through the compliance to make sure that they got their audit trail dialed. And that's what we're going to do on the 3rd day in our presentation, is that we're going to make sure that we run through like all of the things that you should be thinking about that you might not be thinking about inside of your deal, especially if you're an opportunity zone fund and or if you're raising money or thinking about raising money?
Yeah. So the thing that we're going to do, right, is we took this sort of page out of these personal development conferences and we said, all right, we're going to put everybody's name who wants to potentially have this experience into a hat on the bus, and then we'll pull it out the next day, and that person is going to be the person, right, that ultimately gets to go on stage and be supported and nurtured. It's not like to destroy someone, right? It's actually to help use an example, a real life example, and have Ashley there to and other experts, obviously, to be in the room and see where we can take your journey.
And it's funny is that, so one of the things that I always say as well, and this is going to be a hugely interactive process. So we do this thing called the Compliance Bootcamp, which is a weekly call. And then inside of Osworks group, we have the monthly compliance, I guess, meeting and kind of group that's at large. And the power of that is inside of the group, right? So everybody brings something to the table. The Compliance Bootcamp is usually a little bit more intimate. And so there's usually some more kind of direct one-on-one interaction inside of that. But having Patrick Chagru and Brett and Paul and Gordon Goldie and the folks from Grant Thornton, right? Having them be there, right? To where we can get answers in real time. If there's something that I don't know, but I'm like, hey, listen, I think that could be an issue for you. Let's talk to the expert over here. It is unbelievable how valuable that is. And so I'm excited about doing that. I mean, that's valuable for me because I can get my questions answered really fast that way too. And so I'm just excited about having this collective brain power in a room. And it's amazing what happens when you get together enough like-minded people who are passionate about what they do. That's the thing I love about Puerto Rico. I heard somebody tell me one time after I went down there and I went to like a networking thing, they said, the greatest thing about Puerto Rico is that it's like freshman year for millionaires, right?
I brought that up right in the beginning of this conversation.
Anyhow,
like right
so
before
I won't recite that, but yeah, so I and that's what I'm super stoked about, right? Is that, all right, so we are like, so this is like the DECA club, right? Your freshman year of college, where you've got all these superstars, right, in one room. And, it's amazing what comes out of that. So I'm really excited about it.
Thanks. I mean, it's always a pleasure working with you, man, collaborating on these types of things. And I'm excited to like create this format that we've been dreaming up for really a year, right? Like when we had our first event, it was like, man, it would be really cool if we were able to do this, and we're doing it. And so let me, I'm going to take just
kudos to everybody on the team that's been part of executing that. I got,
yes, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
And everyone here can get a chance to experience it. So I'm going to have, I want to just talk a little bit about I talked a little bit about the format. Emily, if you could drop in a link, we put together a landing page so you can see some of the speakers and the time frames, and so we are selling tickets to this. And I see like Krista said in the chat she wanted to hear more hotel opportunities and funds. Like this is your chance to like not just hear about it but see it, touch it, quite literally. And Jonah, like we wanted to make this available. The ticket price includes the 4 days, the bus tour, the venues, we're booking hotel room blocks. And so we'll be in one location together. Like you said, Ashley, it's just like, it's a brain trust, right? It's an energy. And Deb said the same thing. It's like so vibrant. And so we're going to do anybody who's on this call that wants to register, we'll do a 10% off code. Just make sure that you get contact Emily. Emily, if you can drop your email in there too, that would be great. So that people can email if they're interested. And we've got about, this is a small event, right? We've got 55 seats on the bus. And so that's our max capacity. And we've got people on our team and a couple of comp tickets. So we're really more like at 30-ish tickets left.
By the way, that's a big bus. 55 people on a bus. That's a big bus.
And we're going to be very like comfortable together, right? Like I might be sitting like very close to Ashley.
I was going to say, you're not sitting on my lap, dude.
No, I'm not going to go there. We're good friends.
That crosses the line.
Yeah. So, so Jonah says it's a party bus. This is like a big like Greyhound style, seated bus, because we're going to be touring the west side of the island. So, people are saying rent a second one, right? this is part of the value of being close together, because over the course of 3 days, you really get to meet everybody, right? I mean, and I mean that. So it's just very connected. It's very cool. It's very different. There's conferences out there. There's OZ conferences. They're very conventional in the sense that there's a lot of people in presentations. Like, we did everything we could to make this intimate, and part of that is because of COVID. When we first did this, we had to be limited, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, this actually is pretty cool and makes a lot of sense. So, so if people are interested, they can contact us. Osworks group members get 10%. If you've been a client of OZ Pros, you get 10% off. But you know, we're gonna start promoting this thing. You're just the first to get to know it. So if you're interested, participate, get connected, get your ticket, and let us know how we can support you. That's what it's designed for. So I want to thank everybody who came here today, who participated. We'll follow up with some emails. We'll have resources from Grant Thornton's slide deck to, you know, links. And yeah, it's like now the chat's getting fired up. I'm happy to hang for a couple more minutes. I know we're right at time, so if you have to bounce, totally understand. Otherwise, I'll hang out and maybe answer some Q&A if people have them about the event itself. But thanks to everybody for being here, and I'm always excited to see you all in person again. So appreciate you all. Be well, and I'll hang for a little bit.
So, and I'll tee that up, right? I mean, you know, if anybody's got any questions or anything like that, and I'm going to proffer up the Grant Thornton people that if anybody's got any Act 60 questions, man, let's go with some hot seat stuff right now. Let's put them on the hot seat. And let's get some Act 60 questions out there. You know,
before we get too far into that, they might have to go.
That's true.
I do want to be conscious of the time that just because, you know, we have all this time in the world, Ashley. Yeah, right.
I agree though, but in July, I'm telling you, Act 60 is a big deal in Puerto Rico, and it's something you don't wade into without water shoes. You need help in that area. So looking forward to seeing all my friends at Grant Thornton as well.
Dude, waiters, maybe, you know, I mean, I don't want to relate the Grant Thornton ladies to waiters though, right? I mean, we got to have some kind of better analogy than that. Water shoes, waiters, your professional, well, you know, we don't want to call them Sherpas either, but because I'm the OZ Sherpa, but
there's a brand recognition there.
There we go, right?
Hey, you know what we really haven't discussed is that, by the way, if you guys are coming to the island, or if you're already on the island, you know, the fee that you're paying to attend to this event is, you know, a tax write-off, people. I mean, check with your accountant, I will say that, but come to a tropical island, check it out, and, you know, write it off. And not to mention the fact that there is a rainforest on the island, there is snorkeling, the ocean is beautiful. Like, I think Ashley's bringing his family. I know I'm bringing some of mine, you know.
Me
you
too.
know, the kids love free trips. So you know, join us, and I mean, we're going to have some fun. There's incredible restaurants on the island, and it's going to be great fun.
Now, what we need to do is we need to have like a networking meeting on Monday morning, right? Like a breakfast. And then that way, anybody that wants to stay through the weekend and attend the networking meeting on Monday morning can write off the whole thing.
Got it. Fabulous. I like the way your mind works, Ashley.
Now you really got the Grant Thornton people waiting to leave.
Yeah, right.
Well, like, oh no.
I so appreciate everybody. Let's do this. I do want to make a brief introduction. Patrick Shagru, thank you, man. You were at the first event as an attendee. You are now a panelist on our version coming up, and I appreciate you being a resource, a contact, a supporter. So everybody meet Patrick, and you'll meet him more when we get there as well.
You know, Catherine put something in the chat. She wants to let you guys know that everybody who's involved in Rio Rico, which is the local RIA, it's the only RIA in Puerto Rico that is operated by Catherine. Maria, those people that are involved in Rio Rico, the locals get a discount too. So make sure that you contact Catherine for that discount code.
Yeah, we'll follow up with an email, and I think Emily just dropped the registration page in there one more time. But we'll follow up with us. You can contact any of us pretty much any way, and happy to answer questions. And just know that this is a somewhat limited event, so come join us, and can't wait to see you. Thank you for being here today, and we'll follow up soon.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, appreciate
Thanks, guys.
y'all.
See you, man.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye now.
Bye, thank you.
You're welcome.